Hello everyone, today we are checking out the NewBeeDrone AcroBee65, and this one has a new and improved all-in-one board in it. And I'll tell you right off the bat, D16 and D8, they both work, have pretty good range. We'll test that. And the new VTX that goes up to 120 milliwatts, we test that as well. We don't test it to failure, but we test it around in the front of the house. Also, it's probably worth noting that if you race and you race in a organized race where you have to be running 25 milliwatts or less, right now all I see is 5 milliwatts, 50 milliwatts, and 120. I don't know if we'll see something change with maybe a new hex file for beta flight. I don't know, but I think it just doesn't have 25 milliwatts. That's something you might want to consider. And they also have these blow-up gates that they recently launched. 3 of these for $13.99. Pretty good deal. You could turn a small space that might be not so interesting into something that's much more interesting. A lot of our iGal players have been using gates just like this to do all sorts of really fancy and pretty entertaining tricks. But if you need some gates, $13.99. I only have 2 shown in my video because I thought we'd do one, actually assemble it, in this video. A little hard to see, but they also have these new 0802 unibell motors that are running 18,000 kV on the 31mm Z props. Those are also NewBeeDrone props. The all-in-one board is an F411 with a 12 amp ESC. Of course, we already covered the video. It's smart audio capable, and it does go from 5 milliwatts up to 120 milliwatts. NewBeeDrone BI camera, and for the camera protection, we have the Goober canopy. The receiver does have 2 antennas. We are looking at a rolled pin PH20 connector. We can add our own receiver, and they have a wiring harness that plugs into the board so that we can add that receiver. Note the camera plug down there is a lot smaller than we have on our typical camera plugs, but you could always snip the wires and solder in your own camera. The motor connectors are also smaller than we typically see on whoop-sized motors. It weighs just a touch over 23 grams. I flew it exclusively on this NewBeeDrone Nitro Nectar Gold 300 milliamp battery, which brings the weight up to just about 31.5 grams. I did break the camera holder. I replaced that piece, but I still added a little bit of glue because I found the camera kind of wiggled around. Okay, this is pretty deep into my flight sessions. If you know my channel, you know that I fly a lot. My workflow isn't very good. I guess I can show you that, but I just tend to fly these things a lot, and then I pull everything off the DVR, dump it into a folder, and then I just start going through it from that point. So if you notice my props sound a little bit weird, not unusual because I've already crashed it a bunch. And it is very durable. I already mentioned the one item that I did break, which was the little piece behind the Goober canopy, the camera holder. That broke off. I replaced it with one I had. I didn't find that I either didn't get the placement quite right because the camera would come loose and start to wiggle, so I added a little bit of glue, a touch of welder to that. Now, NewBeeDrone is well known within the micro community. I think we've all heard of NewBeeDrone if you've been around for a little while. They are one of those near and dear to our hearts, our micro lovers. Known most prominently, I think, for micros, but they have got into other larger products as well as being more of a retailer and selling products from various sources. So even if you're not looking at this product, you might want to check out their store if you're looking for another product that's from a different manufacturer. I thought the gates were pretty impressive, and you see I'm not using them right now because really I just do my typical flying. I don't necessarily do my gate flying. I tend to feature gates because, well, I tend to not use gates because most of the time when I'm doing flying, I have a short time window to fly. It's pretty rare I have more than, say, an hour. So I usually just grab a handful of batteries and my recording equipment and everything and just fly it and have a good time. Other times, like in the nighttime, maybe I'm just, I'm opting out from not doing anything on YouTube and I'm just flying, and I'll set up a little bit of a racetrack, which is what I'll show later on in the video, a little bit of, well, I'll say track flying. I won't say racetrack flying. But I'm also using the Patrick J. Clark's Project Mockingbird tune. Of course, I am flying in acro mode. I'm not using angle mode. I actually just kind of stink in angle mode. And I'll put a link down in the video description to the Project Mockingbird website. It's projectmockingbird.squarespace.com, where you can go through the setup for this tune. Of course, if you fly in acro, you can just dump the CLI dump straight on it, and then maybe move your modes around for your radio, and then add your OSD elements where you like them. Here we're coming in for the end of the flight, and you see that we get 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and our battery bounces back just up to over 3.5 volts. Here's me just doing a little bit of gate flying. No audio on this. I didn't record. I always record my DVR, but I don't oftentimes on these sorts of things get my audio recording camera out, so you can't necessarily hear how the quad flies. But you can see I've got 2 gates out, and I'm just kind of having a good time. And I think one of these things that even if you've got a small space, say you have an apartment or a condo and you don't feel it's very big, you know, throw down a couple of gates, and it can really just change your environment and give you an additional challenge too. You know, for me, gates aren't easy, and those guys that can hit gates reliably and do it really super fast with whoops, you know, they're really skilled pilot, and maybe you just need to practice with some gates of your own. And at $13.99 for 3, be pretty easy to get 3, if not 6, and in a small space, you can make it a whole lot more interesting to fly and challenging and fun. And you know, these blow up, but I am not concerned about them. I've had them blown up for a week, and they haven't lost any bit of the tension that I put in them when I blew them up. So, and we'll do an assembly here within the video when we get back to the desk. That's the thing that we'll cover first when we get back to the desk, and then we'll talk about the quad. But I think next up, we can go outside and we can do a little bit of video and range testing. So as you can see, I've got my little slip of paper. I stick it down in front of the camera to let us all know that we're in D16 mode. That's not just for you, but it's also for me, so I can sort through all my DVR stuff. I flew most of my flights on D8 mode. That's just kind of a gut reaction, but I wanted to test D16 because they state on the product page some improvements as far as the video reception range and also the receiver, and being able to do D8 mode and D16 mode. I did this in D8 mode as well. I didn't find any differences as far as the range or the control link, and this also shows the video reception. I've just posted, it would be about yesterday, I think, that I had a quad and I would get in lots of video breakup. Of course, that quad's running Express LRS, so different equipment, but this is using my Orca goggles. It is a cloudy and dreary day, and this was during that same period that I was flying that Flywoo 1S baby or Nano baby. And, so I got the wind super low, so I grabbed up everything I could and made use of all the little bits of time that I had during that wind break, because it did pick up here probably 30 minutes after I completed my outside flights with those 2 particular quads. I had about a 50-minute break, and then the wind came back up. But you can see we also go around the back side of the house, and this is at 120 milliwatts. Sure, we get some breakup, but it's not very bad. Quite respectable in my opinion, and I was surprised and taken aback by that. So if you're looking to fly your whoop farther out, of course I would recommend having a beeper on it, and the board does have beeper pads, so you could add your own. But if you like to fly a little farther away from yourself, you want to stretch the quad legs and go out to a field, or you just have a bigger space, you just want to cruise around and explore, yeah, we got plenty of video and control link. And I go up, I think it's 3 houses up the block and across and behind my house. And, I think you'll find that the camera looks better if you have a full sun day, of course, sun angle. So if you get the sun directly in the camera lens or you fly towards the sun, it is going to be, you're going to get that black dot in it, because it's one of those cameras of just like a lot of CMOS cameras that they can't compensate quite enough for the super bright sunlight. And as I turn around this truck, that's where I'm getting a call out from my radio that the RSSI is low. Can you go farther? Sure. How much? I don't know. But I didn't want to walk down there and go get it. So I just opted to turn around the truck and come on back. Also, you can see our battery voltage. I did change that to kind of meet my needs. We were currently down there in the 3.2 area, but I'm going to fly it down a little bit, and then you'll find that we get about a 3-minute flight like this, and the battery does bounce back to just about at 3.5 volts per cell. So if you like to go out and do cruising and you like whoops, seems like a pretty good candidate for it. The price that I'm seeing on the website for this comes in at $139.99. The prices of everything that we've been buying is going up, except for those gates. The price of those gates went, when they launched, they came down, and surely the materials won't start costing more. But yeah, it only comes in FR Sky, so if you're doing Fly Sky or Crossfire, we'll have to add a receiver. Here we are. We're going to land here, getting the battery kind of low. See it coming back up, 3.5 volts per cell, 3 minutes and 10 seconds, a kind of cruisy exploratory flight. Okay, so like I said, we're going to do one of the gates. They come packaged really small. This is an entire gate. Inside here is the balloon part, and then you get a straw with each and every gate, so you get 3 different straws. So I guess if you got 6 or 10 or whatever of these and your buddies are blowing them up, you don't have to worry about sharing the same straw. You might be concerned about that. But it's pretty simple, and I'm going to try to do it here on camera. So we've got instructions printed right here on the front, but it's, pretty basic. We take this center flap, we just kind of bend it up. The balloon's going to go in here. And then we've got these creases. Hopefully you can see that, these creases right in here. So what I do is I just put my thumbnail in there, bend this part up, and you see we've got this little cutout. That's trash. We don't need that anymore. So we bend this up, and then I take my other fingernails to bend this part back down. There. So you get a little shape like this because they're going to slide together, the two pieces, just the same. Bend, bend. And then we do the same with the other one. Fingernail, bend, 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 bend. Oh, our trash fell out. And then we just kind of slide these things together. So that's kind of the base assembly, and this can be a little bit fussy. I've done this obviously 2 times, but see if I can use my desk as a little bit of an advantage to get everything to line up and get in there. There we go. So now we got our base together. You don't have to glue or tape these. I guess you could if you wanted to. I didn't. When you do set the balloon in, I wouldn't set it flat, and I wouldn't set it on your lap or a pillow or anything like that, because I think you want some tension on the outer edges, because if you hit these with your whoop, you don't want them tipping over. You don't want a bent up like this. You probably want some tension down. The next part is to take our balloon part. And let's see, we got a big long tab on one end here. All right, so this is the side. It's kind of like a juice box for all the dads out there. Maybe if you're young enough, maybe you still enjoy juice box. I've got a 26-year-old niece that she's got 3 young kids, and she still likes juice boxes. But we're going to take the straw and we're going to put it right down in there. Now, we don't want to go in like straight like this. Again, it's like a juice box. We want to kind of go in down at an angle, and this red piece will start to go down, and then right where you see this kind of white area, that's where the adhesive is on the inside. So we got to slowly press it down through there. So first trick is to get it started. All right, so now I've got it started. Hopefully you can see that. Get the camera to focus on this and not my face. There we go. So I've got it started. And again, I'm not going to go straight back, and I'm not going to go straight down. I'm going to go at a little bit of an angle, and I'm going to just kind of apply pressure. I can feel it going down. Here we go. It's starting to go down in there. Of course, doing it on camera is always more challenging. So I just keep pressing. I'm going at a little bit of an angle, a little bit less of an angle than maybe a juice box. And now I think, yeah, okay. So you can see here that I've got the straw all the way through that area. And when we pull this out, after we blow it up, this will reseal. And it seals up real nice. So I'm going to blow this up now. First puff's the hardest because you got to expand all this stuff, and it might be kind of stuck together a little bit. Now, I think they need to be real taut, so I like to have a lot of my breath inside there, and then I'll pull this out as I'm pinching down around this area. But I'm going to give it one more puff just to make sure I've got it maximized. I've got a wrinkle here. I want to straighten that out still. All right, it's all looking good, nice and taut. Hopefully you can hear that. Just a little bit more, and then I'm going to pull the straw out, and I got my hands right here, and I'm going to pinch and pull the straw after I get a little bit more air, just for good measure. Done. Solid as a rock. Okay, so I assembled my 2 that are sitting out there with this tab up top, so you can see they have tabs. There's a hole right there, so you can hang it from a rafter, which is kind of what I'm thinking I might do. There's one on each side. Here's a smaller hole or tab, and then another one. And so all 4 sides have little holes so you can hang it from something. Maybe you have a command strip hook so you can keep others in your house happy. You can use those to hang this up. But we're going to go ahead and place it in here. This part I think is going to be very, very challenging. I'll go ahead and put the tab down just to make it look nice. So I'm going to put it in here. Hopefully you can't hear that siren. We've got a tornado test siren going on. Oops, bumped the top camera. So I've got it in here. Hopefully you can see it's not real flat. It's got a little bit of that outward angle. And this nubbin here, I don't know, I think I need to keep that higher or it's going to end up pushing me around. Maybe I need to put the nubbin over here on the side. I think I'll do that. Do that. But then our NewBeeDrone thing isn't quite centered. Well, I'm going to go with it. Then we have these stickers, and I did find that you can pull these stickers off. So after you apply them, they're not like stuck forever for good, and you know it's a one shot, so you can pull these back off. It seems like they thought through everything. So I'm going to try to get this sticker off of here with one hand and the use of my wrist. All right, so throw that away. So I've now got my gate. I'm just going to put a little bit. How am I going to do this and show it on camera? I should have just done a top down or something, but let's go with it. So what the... Oh, this is getting to be a struggle. There, I think this is why I do it. So I'm going to hold it this way. Hopefully you can see it. I'm just going to put about where the little whoop is sticker on, and then I'm going to pull it a little bit and then stick it to the balloon. And then I'm going to come around here to the back side. You want to make sure it's straight up and down. Come around to the back side. I didn't get much on there, and then I just kind of touch it here on the sticker part. So there you go. Quad gate assembly. And let's do a little test how flat it sits. I've got a little case sitting on top of those boxes. Oh, see, my nubbin. I'm going to have to make an adjustment. Need that nubbin to be not so prominent. Maybe I blew it up too much. But I'll make an adjustment afterwards. Maybe I'll put the nubbin out over here. I'll put it back up top like my other two gates. Oh, I guess I can pull this off so that I can just kind of proof a concept that this sticker does come off. See? There we go. Balloon free. Rotate over the top. Boy, this is fussier than I thought it would be. So this is the part where I want to be careful. I want to get my gate vertical, but I don't want my bottom to be too flat. Of course, I can reapply if I need to. And I bent my sticker. Let's flatten that out. Okay, so now it should sit just fine. I moved my nubbin up top. There we go. So, NewBeeDrone gate. You get 3 of them for $13.99. You can take a small space and make it a little bit more interesting. So I don't have a lot to talk about. I do highly recommend that you pick up some of the NewBeeDrone nitroelectric batteries, especially if you're gonna go fast, go hard, whether it's an aggressive freestyle or it's just aggressive as far as speed goes and racing. It's hard to beat the performance to weight of this. Of course, it does come at a cost, so you need to take a look at the cost and see what you can afford. But when it comes to flying fast, you know, lower weight helps us maintain not just the speed, but the ability to be agile when we're going fast. And if you start putting big batteries, you know, it doesn't work out very well. We do have a battery tray down here, and we have these two nubbins. The battery does not rub on, or excuse me, the battery does sit on those two nubbins, so it does not hit the USB port. So when we come down for our crash or our unintended landings, hopefully you can see right in there. Can you see the USB port? It's got a good measured distance away from the USB port if you can't see that. And the batteries do stay in there pretty well. Of course, you could do them any way you want. Maybe you want to be able to plug in your battery from this direction. Oh, that's too short. So I guess we are going from the back. I thought it could go both ways. I could have swore I tried that. I think one of the biggest shortcomings, and I've said this before with other whoops, and we're just going to take a look at the lights here. It's got some interesting little lights. Of course, they change depending upon whether you have your radio on, so it's bound up. But this connector, we really need this connector to go away. And it's not specific to NewBeeDrone, it's the rolled pins. This is going to work fine for some period of time, whether it's 50 flights, 100 flights, 200 flights, whatever. but eventually you're going to start to notice that this is going to break down, and you're going to see more battery sag when you arm and take off than you once did. Of course, there could be other causes for that. We could have motor damage, we could have bad props, we could have hair or debris around the motors and that we need to clear out. Maybe the motors are just worn out, but typically I think it's pretty much well known within the Whoop community that rolled pin is the poorest performer of our current day Whoops and their connections. So that's something that I think we need to change out. At least you'll change out eventually in your ownership of the quad. I pointed it out earlier, but also the motor connectors are different. Let me grab one. So this is the tool I use for removing motors. The prop tool that some Whoops come with also, I am told, works well. So if I take another motor, you know, this is an old broken Happy Model motor, and I try to plug it in, it's just not going to fit. The motor connectors are smaller. Let me get a front side view so you can just see that. So you either have to snip the motor wires when you want to change out motors, and to use something that, you know, like this doesn't have a connector the same size, or you buy more NewBeeDrone motors because all their motors will have this size of connector on them. Also, the camera connector is the same. Hopefully you can see that down there. It's real slim. I'm not sure of the measurement of that particular connector, but for our typical micro connectors that come with cameras, that's not going to fit in there. Again, you'll have to snip that and then wire your camera together rather than using the native camera connection, if it came with a connection. I mentioned it in the quick roll, but I'll go ahead and mention again. This little piece, it actually comes, I think it comes this way, kind of loops down around the bottom of the camera. That broke off during the course of one of my day's flights. Of course, I have Goober canopies. I'm a fan of the Goober canopies. They're very hardy, and that's the first time I've broken this piece as well. So that's a new experience for me. But when I remounted this camera using, you know, an unbroken camera holder, I did find that the camera was slipping out and then it would vibrate around. So I don't know if you can see it. I tried to add some glue. It's actually around the round part that goes around the lens. That way I could actually pull the camera out at a later time if I wanted to. So I just added a touch of welder. So if you see the weight coming in above where you expected, some of that weight, the smallest amount that is, I didn't use much welder, would come from that glue. Of course, I mentioned it in the Flywoo video, but this has the potential of you being able to use the Patrick J. Clark Mockingbird tune. Many people are fans. If you haven't tried it, you know, do a dump of whatever you've got and then try a Mockingbird tune just to see what you think. He also implements some things that are specifically made for angle racing, which is, I believe, one of the things that he really enjoys, and he does all of his work for free. I think he does offer shirts, so if you wanted to buy a Mockingbird shirt, you know, I think he might earn $1 or $2 from that. So if you want to help him pay his web hosting bill, or help him get some product to do additional Mockingbird, that's one way of doing it. Something else that I noticed, and some of you veteran whoopers and maybe just recent whoopers can tell me, but when I got this out of the box, the props were real high, pretty much like you see them now. And I flew it around, and I thought, wow, this is feeling really good. And it does fly very, very well. Of course, I've got the Mockingbird tune on it. I did fly the stock tune. I think the stock tune was pretty good, but for as far as racing and the sharp hard turns, the Mockingbird tune is better as far as handling the prop wash and not sliding out. But I pushed the props down. You know, I'm an advocate of protect your motor stems, push the props down, and you know, you'll save that potential for bending a motor shaft or even snapping a motor shaft. So I pushed them down, and I immediately felt a pretty big difference. And that was also a new experience for me. I had not toyed with prop position on the shaft. So as you can see there, I moved them back up. I don't think I moved this one back up as high as I needed to, though. But I moved the props back up because I felt like it flew better. I don't recommend doing that if you're flying real stiff props, like the gem fan props. Actually, I don't recommend you doing it all if you're at all concerned about your motor shaft and the health of those motor shafts. But I think with the Aziz props, because they're more flexible, they tend to give a lot better. And I know you have prop protection, but when we crash, we still hit the props. I broke a prop or two. I've broken a lot of props in my whoop flying experience. But if you fly with these props, I think you're much less likely to bend a motor shaft because they do flex and bend when you do have those crashes. Also, I think NewBeeDrone's frames are oftentimes considered the most durable of the Whoop community's frames. maybe not everybody has that experience. Chime in down below if you have different experience with NewBeeDrone frames. And I'm sure all ears. That's one of the ways that I try to help others, is passing on information I receive from you and kind of compiling that together in my brain of how often am I hearing something, and then I can report that on. Whether I support that strongly or not, that might be another thing altogether. I think they did a nice job with this board and the receiver and the video. You know, I think the one thing that most people will look at this, outside of maybe the connectors that are used, is the camera. The camera doesn't show great outside. It's mainly used for inside. I think it does LED gates pretty well as well. So if you're into whoops, you probably already fly this camera, and you can also leave some more opinion about this particular camera. Wide field of view when it comes to whoops and going fast, for me, is very, very important, and I think it is for others as well. Again, I highly recommend Nitro Nectar if you want to go fast, even if it's not with a NewBeeDrone whoop. Even if you've got a different whoop, give these batteries a try. I've got loads of them now, and I think for the weight to performance, this is the best way to go. Again, I mentioned it earlier, this NewBeeDrone AcroBee65 with this new BLV3 board is $139.99 in the US. You don't have any protocol options, so FrSky only, but it did do D8 and D16 on my Jumper T-Lite just fine. And it had good range. I showed it in the video. The video reception is improved. I showed that in the video. And we also have those new gates, which I think make small spaces fun and can make large spaces a party. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.